Hello, I'm Evan Nolan, the president and co-founder of the United States Athletics Hall of Fame, here and now the returning nominee for the class of 2024. The child of coal miners, George Blanda was born September 17, 1927, in the Pittsburgh suburb of Youngwood, Pennsylvania. He would go on to play more seasons of professional football than anyone else in NFL history. Now, there's not really that much known about his childhood. He kind of surfaces as a freshman quarterback at the University of Kentucky, where he went 1-9 in his first season. The next year, Bear Bryant, yes, that Bear Bryant, would take over as coach of Kentucky, and the team would improve drastically, losing only 3 games in each of the next 3 seasons. To be honest, though, Blanda's stats weren't really that much to write home about. In his last 2 years combined, he only threw for 1,451 yards and 12 touchdowns, while completing only 49.6% of his passes and throwing 16 interceptions. When he graduated Kentucky, he really thought his football career was over, but clearly he was very wrong. He'd actually be drafted in the 12th round of the 1949 draft by George Halas in the Chicago Bears. And he would sign with the team for $6,000 a season with a $600 signing bonus. Now, he'd serve as the team's backup quarterback and primary kicker, with occasionally getting some downs at linebacker and safety just so he could get to play more football. He'd end up as the team's starting quarterback in 1953 and would remain there until halfway through the 54 season, when he suffered a season-ending shoulder injury that relegated him back to backup status once again. After a tumultuous decade in Chicago, he'd retire at the end of the 1958 season, and then sign a brand new contract with the Houston Oilers and the upstart AFL in their inaugural 1960 season. Now, Houston and the AFL were a much better fit for Blanda and his oversized personality. Despite being derided as an NFL castoff, he'd both kick and play quarterback for the Oilers, and he would thrive. He would lead them to the AFL championship in both of his first 2 seasons in Houston. In the 1961 season, he would lead the league in passing, throwing for 3,330 yards and 36 touchdown passes, which was a professional single-season record until Dan Marino broke it in 1984. Now, that included a game against the New York Titans in which he threw 7 touchdowns in the game, which is still tied for the record with like 6 or 7 other quarterbacks. He would win the AFL 1961 Player of the Year. The next season, he'd set another record. Fortunately, it was for interceptions with 42, which still stands as the all-time AFL-NFL record today. Still, his team would go 11-3 and get to the AFL championship game again, ultimately losing in double overtime to the Buffalo Bills after Blanda's 5th interception of the day led to a Buffalo field goal. He remained the Oilers starter through the middle of the 1966 season, leading the league in passing attempts and yards during that time. But ultimately, he'd lose his starting position to Don Troll and end up basically just back as the team's kicker. After the 1967 season, the 39-year-old Blanda would be traded to the Raiders. Now, with the Raiders, he'd served mainly as the team's kicker, leading the league in points and winning yet another AFL title. The Raiders were going to lose Super Bowl II to the Green Bay Packers in his first year there. His best year of the Raiders come the 1970 season, where then 43-year-old Blanda would come off the bench to play for the injured Darryl LaMonica, leading the team to 4 wins and a tie in 5 games. He'd come on to relieve LaMonica again in the playoffs, keeping the Raiders in the AFC Championship game against the Colts, until it kind of fell apart in the 4th quarter. At that point, he was the oldest quarterback to ever throw a pass in a championship game. Blanda would win the Burt Bell Award as Player of the Year after that season, despite throwing only 55 passes. In the words of Chiefs owner Lamar Hunt, making a joke about the old man who won this award, this Blanda was just as good as his father, who used to play for Houston. He'd also won the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year award, the first ever football player to be so honored. He played for 5 more seasons afterwards, mainly serving as kicker for the Raiders, before being released after the 1976 season, retiring 1 month short of his 49th birthday. Now, when Blanda retired, he was the all-time points leader in pro football history and was the first player to score 500 points for 3 different franchises. He still holds the record for the oldest player in NFL history, barring a Tom Brady resurgence at some point here, and would retire having played 340 games, the most all time and still the 5th most, and most by a non-full-time kicker in NFL history. Blanda began his career as a 22-year-old in George Halas' 1949 Chicago Bears, and would ended as a 48-year-old in 1975 on John Madden's Oakland Raiders. In between, he would win 3 AFL championships, the Burt Bell Award, the AP Professional Athlete of the Year Award, the NFL Man of the Year Award, which is now called the Walter Payton Award. He worked as both a kicker and a quarterback and still holds an NFL record for most extra points both taken and converted, and the most touchdown passes in one game with 7. Elected on his first year of eligibility to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Blanda was a legendary first play as he was for his longevity. We'll never see another like him. Now you can vote for George Blanda or any of our other nominees to the United States Athletics Hall of Fame at www.theusahof.com. That's the United States Athletics Hall of Fame.com. If we will continue between now and we close our polls December 1st, so vote as often as you like, as long as it's only once a day. I'll be back soon with another nominee, but until then, take care.